Hey, what's up guys? Brian here, Brian's Lawn Maintenance. Trust you guys are doing well. All right, so check this out. We're gonna be talking about building routes, making money with your lawn care and landscaping business. Now, I have put a lot of time and energy and thought into this video. I'm super jacked to do this one for you guys. I'm going to be talking about how I built my routes and how I built my lawn and landscape company in depth on this video. I'm gonna give you all my power tips, all my secrets, all the best tools and resources I've used to help you guys with your lawn care and landscaping business. Now, before I jump into it, here's what I wanted to say really quick. This video is being sponsored by Yardbooks. If you guys haven't checked them out, yardbook.com. They've actually been an advertising partner with us for the last 2 or 3 months, and you know what? Those are some of the best people I've ever been able to work with. They have a lawn care and landscaping business software that allows guys like me to run a lawn and landscape business so much more effectively and so much more profitably and productive-wise, growing my lawn and landscape business. I wouldn't be able to run my business without that software. So here's the deal. I'm going to tie all this together about how to get more customers, how to build more routes, how to be more profitable, and then how to manage it all, which is how Yardbook ties into the end of this video, right? So watch this thing the whole way through. Here's what I'll tell you guys. If you're serious about your lawn and landscape business, take notes. If you really enjoy this video, shoot it a big thumbs up, come back and revisit it, listen to it again, because it's going to take a couple times, because I'm going to give you guys a lot of detail and a lot of information here. We're going to break this video down into 4 points, all right? Number 1, our ideal customer. Number 2, we're talking about boundaries. Number 3, we're going to talk about advertising and marketing strategies. And number 4, business software, how to manage what we're going to put together, all right? Now, I'm going to go over this really quick, but it is not a complicated topic, okay? Here's what I want to talk about. Before we start anything, we always want to begin with the end in mind, and we're going to talk about building routes, okay? Now, if I want a super productive, super profitable business, I'm looking for an ideal customer. Every business out there has a targeted demographic, or whatever you want to call it, customer, right? And for us, it's no different. You got to put a little thought into what we're doing if you want to end up making some serious income with what you do. And that's no different even in lawn care landscaping, okay? So with what we do, by the way, you can insert your ideal customer here. I'm just going to give you some examples. Now, as you guys know, in a lot of my videos in Metro Detroit, Michigan, there's a lot of subdivision style homes. And you know what I'm personally looking for, and this is just my story, is we're looking for certain things that I qualify a customer. I want a 3-2 kind of home in a certain price point, maybe $350,000 to $600,000, right? I want dual income. I want the folks to have some disposable income. I want there to be a standard in that subdivision, that it's a nicer subdivision, so they have to keep that standard, right? Now, that's just my kind of ideal targeted customer. Again, we're going to begin with the end in mind, so I want to make sure what I'm looking for. Number 1, we want an ideal customer, and I just explained my ideal situation. Now, yours might be entirely different. You might be looking for a rural client with 5 acres or more who irrigates a certain part of it with a certain size house or farm or whatever you're going to call it, and that might be your ideal customer in a certain part of town, right? So everybody's going to be different. You might be looking for $2 million homes with high net worth clients that are going to spend $25,000 a year or more on their landscaping. Now, you know, it's going to relate to you. It's not going to relate to me, but everybody's different. But number 1, when you're building routes of any capacity, we want to start with our ideal customer, right? Number 2, let's talk about boundaries. I don't know if you guys can relate on this story. Have you guys ever been in a situation where you feel like you're spending more time driving around than you are actually working? I'm serious. Have you guys ever felt that experience where I feel like I'm doing one lawn over here, one lawn over here, another lawn on another side of town, and I feel like at the end of the day when I cash out, I actually spent more window time, we would call it, than I did mowing time. Now, I'm gonna plug a video and I'll leave a card here, and then also I'll tag it at the end, talking about a video I did last year, talking about productivity tips. The best tool I ever have used in my lawn and landscape business is a stopwatch, because we get paid when the mowers and our folks move, nowhere else. If the trucks are driving, we're not making money. We only get paid when things are moving or people are working. So how does that relate to what we're talking about? If you're spending more windshield time than you are mowing time, you're not going to be as profitable and productive. Here's how most of you guys' routes look. If you guys can see right here, here is how most folks' lawn care route looks. They have one lawn that they start up here. On one side of town, they have another one. They're going through the middle side of town. They're getting a couple people a satellite on the outside. They do 1 or 2 other stragglers, and they come back home. And most folks wonder why they're not making any money or why their lawn care business isn't profitable. In fact, a lot of you guys that watch the channel know I have a friend named Brandon, and Brandon has another friend named Keith. Shout out to Keith if you've ever watched this video. But Brandon said that his friend Keith is one of those those folks where he has lawn care customers all around town and he doesn't understand he's not making as much money as he could be. And then Brandon shares stories about me where I'm cutting 40 lawns in a day and is short-circuiting Brandon's friend Keith's mind because he has one lawn on this side of town, another over on the other side of town, so on and so forth. Now, here's how an ideal route is going to look like. As you guys can see right here, what we did is we have all of our lawns in a certain part of town set by boundaries by major roads. These outlined boxes, this might be a major highway, this might be major mile roads, this might just be certain sides of town where it goes into another side of town that you don't want to be in anymore. But what we're trying to do is set boundaries for our business. Now, again, for me personally, it is about a 1 mile block. And you know what? Inside that block though, I knew that there was over 2,500 ideal customers for me in that certain home value, dual income, the wife is usually home, so on and so forth. I've got my ideal customer. I set boundaries. I figured out how many customers are in that side of town, and that's how we built our boundaries with doing stuff like this. Now, here's what happened over the years. When I got my lawn care business started, I had a cousin on the other side of town, and what we did is I had my lawn and landscape business over here, and then I had another little satellite side of town where my one of my cousins lived. And so when I was smart enough to still make a day out of it, but what happened was it was offsite, it was satellite, it was 25 minutes away, and that was my Friday route. As you guys can see right here, this was my ideal route, circled in 2 square miles. I'd have to go all the way over to one side of the highway, all the way up. This is about a 25-minute drive over to another part of town called Heartland, Michigan. Now, this was my Friday route. Now, we had this locked down. 85% of my business was over here, but this was 10 to 15%. What I personally did in 2018 is we have sold off this part of my business because even though it was a couple $1,000s worth of business, when you add up fuel and gas and tax and everything else that goes into moving over to that side of town, even for just one day, because of all the extra time, we weren't very productive with how much money we were making. It wasn't super profitable. It was cheaper for me to sell that route, make a couple bucks on it, get rid of it, which by the way is going to be a whole nother video. I can't wait to do a video about selling clients and how we did that. But now what we are is we are 100% over here in where I live in Wixom, Michigan. So how did I get all my clients in one side of town within literally a 5-minute radius? I set hard boundaries, which leads us to point number 3. Once we have the ideal customer and hard boundaries with where we're trying to build our routes, number 3 is the advertising and marketing strategy. Now, this could be a whole video on its own, but I have talked at length on a lot of videos and podcasts talking about my advertising and marketing strategy. Let me go through a couple of these really quick. This isn't going to probably be the meat of the whole video. I want to talk more about routes, but once you have your ideal customer and you have your ideal boundaries set for your business, now we get to fill in the cracks. Now we're going to fill in that whole middle section, and this is where it gets very fun very quick. Now, I will say this, you always got to understand in business, you got to play the long game. You have to be patient. Okay, here's some advertising and marketing strategies for you guys. Things that work for my advantage when I'm trying to build in my routes. Number 1 would be word of mouth advertising. Number 2, Facebook strategies with advertising. Number 3, yard signs. Number 4, postcards and marketing. Number 5, websites. Other things that can contribute to growing a thicker, more dense route would be customer referral programs. Now, here's some stuff that may be a little bit off the record, but working nights and weekends. A lot of you guys know that I don't mind working a Saturday or Sunday. And here's the deal, while everybody's home on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, me and my guys are doing a lot of work, landscape projects usually, or I'm doing aerations or something extra credit, leaf cleanups per se, and I'm always in those routes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now, that's not necessarily an advertising or marketing strategy, but a lot of our customers have came from Saturdays and Sundays where folks are home. They come on out and say, hey, and they see us in the same subs all the time. Now, again, you got to understand there is a compounding effect. Once you have your ideal customer and your boundaries, it only takes 3, 4, 5 years for this to really start to fill in, where your truck and trailer and rig is only in one side of town, 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles, whatever your radius is. So as you guys can imagine, you're going to start running into circumstances and instances where you'll be at a gas station filling up your rig, and somebody will walk over to you, ask you have a business card, and they'll say, oh yeah, you know, I've seen your rigs around town. And you're thinking to yourself, rigs, I only have one, it's just me. But they always say that because they see you all the time in the same area. Of course you have a larger business. Of course there's 4 or 5 of your lawn care landscaping trailers around town. I get that all the time. But that's the cool part about when you start building in those routes, you're always around town. When you're the only guy in your subdivision or one of 3 or 4 guys in your subdivision, the word of mouth referral programs, getting on Facebook groups and all that stuff for the HOAs, that is just a game changer. So again, it takes time, but here's the deal. I would rather just keep focusing in a certain part of town than I would driving all across town to 5 or 6 other cities. Now, I will say this, in a future video, we're gonna be talking about marketing and advertising strategies, about what I'm gonna be using going into fall and winter, and some things I'm adjusting for my business to even get more route density and more customers, so stay tuned for that. So let's go to number 4. After we have our ideal customer, we've set our ideal boundaries for our business, we have a ton of marketing and advertising going into that concentrated area. Number 4 is, how do we manage it all? Now, that's where Yardbooks comes into play. Now, back in the day, I was very familiar with building routes with TrueGreen when I used to work with them. They had mapping software. They might have just used a MapQuest back in the day. It was over a decade ago, right? But most companies nowadays use some kind of routing software. Now, here's where the beautiful part comes into play with Yardbook. If you go onto the sitemap and you click the quick dispatch tab, you can start the process of building routes. It's so cool. It's such an awesome feature. What you're gonna do is you're gonna click start from scratch. You're gonna select your properties. You're gonna go through a couple of tabs, including populate, and eventually at the end, it's going to spit out a routing map, if you will, with all of your customers on one side. You'll see the map on the screen on the right-hand side. You can optimize that route. Now, what some guys do is they email it to somebody. What they do is they print it off. They make little check marks as they go for what customers they did. But that way, if it's just for you or it's for somebody that's running your route, you got some employees for you, you could already have an optimized route for those guys. And I think that is awesome. Now, again, I've built my routes just from kind of being in certain parts of town. Hey, on Monday, we're over here. Tuesday, we're over here. Wednesday, over here. Thursday, down here, right? But that's all within that 1 mile box that I was telling you about with my boundaries. But with what I can do with Yardbook is I can super optimize those routes. I know some guys that I get so crazy where, kind of like the UPS example, they only make right-hand turns and they were able to save 3 hours of driving per week. I'm telling you guys, if you want to get serious about your lawn and landscape business, there's folks out there that are taking it to that extreme. So that's my plug for Yardbooks. That's where that comes into play to help me build more routes. If you've never built a route or you're just kind of skipping all across town, you don't have to be super advanced with it, but that routing software tool, just that tool alone can help grow your business and make you more profitable and more productive. Now, if you guys have been liking this video, shoot it a big thumbs up because I'm really excited about this. I'm gonna be doing another video here in about 2 or 3 weeks, again, for Yardbooks, talking about the evolution of my billing. So if you guys have not seen that, just the routing software alone is worth everything that Yardbook has to offer, but there's so much more to it that I can't wait to get into how we've been managing our billing, and now that's a game changer as well. Now, let me go into a couple power tips I can give you guys with building routes and talking to you guys a little bit more about some of the pitfalls that I see. Number 1, don't let customers dictate their mowing day. A lot of customers get signed up and the first question they ask is, can you mow on Thursday or Friday, right? The answer is, it depends. When I started my business, just like most of you guys, Friday and Thursday go first, and then we start backtracking. By the way, there's nothing wrong with cutting somebody's lawn on a Monday or Tuesday. It's all how you sell it, communicate it, and it's all perception. I say, hey, if they're a Monday customer, I say, it's awesome, your lawn's gonna be looking beautiful all week. And they say, awesome, sounds great. If it's a Friday customer, it's gonna say, hey, you know what, you got a premium spot, it's gonna be on Friday, and guess what, your lawn's gonna look beautiful for the weekend. Oh, fantastic. Here's the reality of it is that I'd say 70 to 80% of folks don't even care what day the lawn gets cut. They just wanna make sure it gets done. Lawn care for the homeowner, you guys gotta understand, is a nuisance for a lot of these folks. So you're clearing up their schedule, making their life easier. They're just glad that somebody does it. Tip number 2, set hard boundaries. Don't go out of them. I don't care if somebody has a brother, a cousin, a family member on the other side of the road for where your cutoff road is. Don't do that client, because you're gonna go from that customer to this customer to this customer, and then you're 3, 4, 5, 10 miles down the road, and you know what, your route just went out the window. And here's the deal, compounded over time, you'll fill in your route, that boundaries you've set. But if you're skipping all across town, you're just gonna have the machine gun effect, and it's gonna be all over the place, peppered with onesie twosies. In fact, I have a true story, a personal story. This spring, I had a customer call me. That was a client of mine like a decade ago. They just found the card in their desk, right? And the guy sent since then, he's 10 years older, he's more successful, he's in a nicer subdivision. In fact, he's on the board. In fact, he's the president of a subdivision. And that account alone, he reached out to me because he was very impressed with my, you know, how young I was when I was starting and my hustle and my motivation, right? And he said, one day I'm gonna get that guy some work. Well, he called me up and he had an HOA worth about $14,000. But here's the deal, it was 20 to 25 minutes from where I live, but once you factor in traffic, it's a half hour plus there and back. It was mowing, it was a lot of landscape, and you know what? I turned it down. It was a half hour away. I don't wanna be driving all over there because it's more productive for me to fill in my route, make it so much more dense than it is for me to start a whole other side of town, especially after I just sold off another part of town. Now, that's $14,000. So if you're doing $14,000 or less, hopefully, in my opinion, you should be following the same rules and principles in setting hard boundaries. Don't deviate outside of that. I'm telling you, it'll pay big dividends long term, which relates right into tip number 3. Play the long game. Don't just popcorn all over the place, taking clients everywhere you go. Think long term. Say in 5 years, I want all my lawns and all my customers in one side of town. I want them in these 10 or 20 subdivisions, right? Where my ideal customers are. That's my boundaries. So play the long game. Don't get impatient if you're passing out flyers and you don't get but 1 or 2. 1 or 2 turns into 3 and 4. 4 and 5 turn into 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9 out of 200, you start to become the authority in that subdivision because you're in there all the time doing mulch jobs, landscaping jobs, etc. Now folks are going to see you more often. They're going to start talking about you on Facebook, and that's how you start compounding. Don't underestimate being in a subdivision with only 4 or 5 lawns when you have 200 homes in there. After you have about 10 or 15, you're going to be the authority and the go-to guy, and you're going to have that exponential popcorn compounding effect, which is beautiful. But I will say this, that also relates to tip number 4, which is if customers are not what you're looking for, drop them. The more dense, let's say you have one road that you're on, and you have 12 customers over here and 2 across the street in another sub, and you're trying to get into this sub, but it's just not working out. Double your efforts down in the subdivision you already have 12 in and go from 12 to 25. The subdivision that you only have 2 in, eventually, long term, you might want to drop them because, again, minutes matter, and just because you make an extra 50, 70, 80, 100 bucks off of those 2 clients, it might be more profitable for you to double down and do more landscaping work, more mowing work in a subdivision where you already have a majority of the market share. So that would be my 4th power tip. In all honesty, if you guys want my current metric for what I'm looking for with new customers, here's my 2 qualifying questions or statements. Number 1, can I actually see their home from a client I'm currently mowing? I know it's extreme. You're like, that's insane. That's impossible, basically. But here's where we're at right now. If I can't see your lawn from a customer's house that I'm already mowing, you're probably going to not get picked up from us as a client. Number 2, a little bit more mild version of that is if you're not in the same subdivision where I'm already at, then you're definitely not getting mowed. We're in 8 subdivisions right now, 8 subdivisions, and they're all within a 1-mile radius. So get crazy fanatical about your route density. I'm telling you, you can do it. That's how you go cutting 40 and 50 lawns every single day by 4 p.m., not even breaking a sweat. Now, I know in rural America, some of you guys maybe in the South and in the West, you know, the Plain States, maybe that's not the same thing, but everywhere in town's got a nice subdivision that you can get into and get as productive as you can. If I can give you guys one power tip to wrap this whole video up and give you guys some suggestions and some ideas about how to build your lawn care landscaping business and routes, it would be stop being so fancy. You guys have seen what most people do, right? They're all over the place with running their landscape business. Here's some major roads, and here's how you can build some better routes and, you know, section your whole business off. I got my cute little papers here, right? Here's what I was doing, right? I had Wixom, and then I was driving all across town to Heartland. Now here we canceled all of our Heartland stuff, and I'm just in where I live. That's all fine and dandy. Here's what you guys need to do. In the subdivisions you're already in, do a inventory check and account of how many other folks in those subdivisions are getting lawn service. I bet you in a subdivision of 200 homes, even if you have 20, 30, 40 of them, there's still another 10, 15, 20 that are on the table. Stop getting so fancy. You don't have to throw up with Facebook and marketing and postcards and all this other stuff going on. Why don't you just get out of your truck, walk up to the front door, knock on the door, say, hey, look, my name's Brian. I run Brian's Lawn Maintenance. I was just curious if you're in the market for lawn service or if you're going to be in the market for lawn service over the next 3 to 6 months. That's it. Doesn't matter what you say. There's no professional script here. Here's what you can do. You can walk up to the house and say, hey, look, my name is Brian. I just wanted to introduce myself really quick. Here's a business card. Hey, obviously the guy that's cutting your grass, he's doing a great job, but I'm just going to be honest with you. Just from me looking at the curb, I know there's a couple things that I can do to probably improve the lawn for you guys. And here's the thing, with how beautiful your home is, I would imagine you guys want the best lawn service that's in town. That would be myself. You know what? I'm not here to sell you or convince you on anything I do. Right now, I just wanted to give you a card so you had a contact for me. Hey, if things change in the future and you're not happy with the guy you currently have, give me a shout, give me a ring. Figure out your wording, figure out your script, figure out your strategy. It doesn't really matter, okay? But here's what I'm trying to say. Stop being so fancy. If there's lawns already in the subs that you see that are not getting cut by you, get out of your truck, go knock on the door, shake someone's hand, introduce yourself, and you can get those customers. And that is the simplest way to build route density. The fancy ways is throwing money at those problems. But you know what? Hustle can still be hard work. But here's the deal, hustle can always beat that. But here's the deal, hustle can always win out and put money in your pocket. So anyway, guys, lengthy video for sure. This one's sponsored by Yardbooks. I wanted to spend some time on this video for you guys. If you watch the whole way through, shoot it a big thumbs up. This is for the people that are gonna watch the whole way through and are actually serious about lawn care and landscaping, and not just all the fluff videos that I can put out for you guys just to entertain. This one is more meat. This is actually making money. And you know what? For the folks that treat videos like this serious, I guarantee you, you're gonna put a lot of money in your checking account. If you guys are interested in checking them out, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description down below. You can go sign up with them. For the most part, it's free. There might be like a 1% processing on any of your credit card stuff, but for what you get out of the software, it's incredible. And the routing software alone is a game changer. All right, guys, all things being said, I appreciate you big time. Don't forget to hit the like button, like I said. Subscribe if you guys are new. I'm always doing lawn care landscaping videos, teaching you guys how to run a better lawn and landscape business. All right, Brian here, Brian's Lawn Maintenance. Guys, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.